I'm Leo Connors, and welcome to the Ring and All Other Sports. Happy Halloween. My special guest, Samuel Radcliffe.
It's good to see you again.
You too, my friend. How are you?
Doing well.
I appreciate you bringing in the trusty little thing. I was too lazy. I really was. I didn't do anything over the weekend, and I wanted to go get masks just to have them, you know?
Of course, yeah. Well, it's the season for that.
Yes, exactly. All right, so you got a lot of fan questions. Some very interesting ones, too.
Okay.
So let's just get right into it. John Carey, you know John, right?
Of course I do.
Awesome. Radcliffe is one solid town. I always like to say, think not just questions. You know what I mean? If you got something to say and it needs to be heard or read. Teresa Kerr, your character is incredibly unique. How did you come up with it?
Well, I think the big thing about Radcliffe is it's me. And, you know, it's one of those instances where you can feel more natural when you sort of reflect yourself. So, for instance, my passion, my work is welding, and so, you know, you kind of try to figure out where welding can fit within this community, and of course, the only other place where there are welds are the ring. So a lot of what I focus on in terms of, you know, who I am is, you know, the safety aspect, and, you know, when it comes to a wrestling ring, what are the precautions? Has it been inspected? These are things that I look for in a ring. You know, you don't want to necessarily just jump right in.
Right.
I know that's kind of a trend now, but it's more important that, at least in terms of what we do, that someone, whoever it might be, in this case it's me, ensures that that is a proper, in a proper condition.
Right. So I suppose you did not see that picture that went around social media a while ago with a piece of a tree as one of the corners. Did you happen to see that though?
No comment.
All right.
Very creative.
Very. All right. Damon Farah. He has. Well, first he wants to know, when are you coming out with the 4XL? Because he'll buy it too. Believe me.
Oh, I believe in.
And you make two different kind of shirts? He'll buy both of them.
Well, yeah, and we're kind of running out of the current stock of what we have, and we took kind of a poll, sort of what people were interested in. The garage shirts, they were okay, but they weren't necessarily something that the typical wrestling audience was interested in. Right. So we did a little bit more looking into it, and we found something that I think will be a little bit more towards the tune of not only what folks are sort of looking for, but I also wanted to make sure it wasn't sort of a generic, you know, black t-shirt, you know, background. I know I'm wearing one of the old ones now, but and actually I think we have, I've sent you folks just a picture we can put up at this time.
Oh, they will.
Yeah, so that way that folks can at least take a look at it. And this is definitely the direction I want to head into.
Right.
I think this is great symbolism, and I think for most folks, it's something that they would feel confident wearing. I would.
Right.
And I think that's most important.
That's awesome. All right, David also says, I've told you before, you remind me of Kevin Owens in the ring as far as style. Who do you think you're similar to when you wrestle?
Ooh.
And I'll tell you, if David's saying that, then he means it. Believe me.
No,
David's a student of wrestling. He is.
No, of course. And that's where I have to be careful because, you know, at least in terms of history, there's quite a lot of talent that has come through.
Yeah.
And to really choose one, I'd like to think that, I mean, if we're going sort of what I normally do, which is more brawler and all that.
Yeah.
Wow, that is a good question because a lot of my style is adopted. So there's a little Ricky Steamboat.
Yep.
There's definitely some. There's even some honky tonk, which I think is really fun to kind of to sort of not necessarily emulate, but there's a lot of things that I sort of saw in him that I like and I enjoy. But I also
talk fake. It comes from Memphis.
Well, of course, but I also want to sort of stay true to my roots. And so, you know, a lot of that also comes from sort of the Russian side of things.
Yep.
You know, a big one is Kozlov, and sort of trying to keep in with the tradition, and so very much the grapple and suplex, that style, that at least in terms of as a combat, I find being most effective and at least more true to what I see as being my work or my art.
Excellent. Great answer. All right. Lenny Bibiloni. Did I say that right?
I don't know.
I thought maybe you knew.
These are your questions.
This is great. All right, Lenny, first time asking a question. Thank you very much, bud. What inspired you to do pro wrestling while also being a solid mechanic? So he knows you. You know Lenny.
I actually do. So the big thing for me was trying to find a purpose, and a lot of the mundane that you find with most folks, especially blue collar folks, where it's sort of the 9 to 5, or even some folks it's the 4 to 3 o'clock, where you're not necessarily, you know, at least in terms of your social life, it's go to work, go home, eat dinner, go to bed. It's, for a lot of folks, that can be quite boring. And I found, especially with Garage Life, where, you know, we'd start at 7 o'clock, we'd go till about 4:30, 5 o'clock every day. And I'd be kind of left with this time frame where I didn't really feel like eating. I didn't feel like watching movies or going out and seeing things. So I was like, well, I'm not really sure what else to do. And my welding career had started to take off. And this kind of leads back to that earlier point where, you know, I was looking for a purpose or something to do. And a lot of the iron workers at the time were kind of going off to seeing these wrestling shows. And more or less speaking, I kind of just got dragged into it. Because they were fans of it. And so I started to go and started to notice where things could be improved upon. And one of the big things was the ring. And you had mentioned that ring earlier with the dam, you know, that's something that would not pass by my radar. So there are definitely, you know, at least back then and even now, there are moments where there is certainly a need for that type of individual. And so that's what I saw in this business, and that's really what got me into it.
Nice. And again, Lenny, thanks for asking the question. But now I don't feel so special because you guys know each other. Kevin May, where do you see yourself 5 years from now? Kevin, too, another first time question asker. Thank you.
In 5 years, well, hopefully at that point, I will have mastered most of the design process of the 8-sided ring, the octagonal ring. And I really enjoy sort of the designs and the uniqueness. The Elimination Chamber is one of those styles of combat area that I've always been a fan of. I want to build a ring. And I want to have a show, and I want to test it and see truly how good it is. And so that's kind of the 5 year, at least in terms of my skill. Where I want to be is, you know, I want to be everywhere in New England. And I want to be from the tip of Maine all the way down to the Isles in Cape Cod and Massachusetts, and even into New Jersey and New York. That's kind of where I want to be in 5 years, and sort of staking my claim in the New England territory.
Very attainable, too, by hard work. You know what I mean? You know it. You know that. Kevin also says, what big TV company would you like to wrestle for? I would imagine any of them. But I mean, you might, you know what I mean? There might be one that you like more than others.
The big thing is, where can I fit in? Where do they need me the most? And I actually heard recently, was it TNA? Had some little rumors of possibly coming back, and I know
they changed their name from Impact to TNA again. They did that already.
They did that, yeah. So, and there's definitely room there, and I certainly could see myself, you know, either on there, possibly going on to possibly Ring of Honor would be a great opportunity, I feel. And certainly, especially where what I focus on in the utmost is safety, I feel like there's plenty of room there to sort of grow and develop, so that way everyone benefits from it.
Right. Excellent. Great answer. All right. Travis Mullet Man Hinton. You know Travis?
I recognize that name.
All right. He's in Vermont, so you could wrestle in Vermont too, big. You know, I'm just saying, like, you want to be all over New England,
I've wrestled
right?
in Vermont. I've wrestled in Vermont.
Travis was here maybe a month and a half ago, whatever. Great guest. Funny dude.
I saw that episode. That was good.
Took like 6 hours to get here, man. And I'm going to have him back because that's dedication.
That is.
All right. When did you start training to wrestle?
So, okay. Training to wrestle and when I actually started wrestling are two different timelines. Because in the beginning, I didn't really know what I was doing.
Right.
But if to start training was in the early months of 2018, I started with Atlantic Pro Wrestling School.
Yep. Mike King. More Louis or Demon Ortiz.
Oh,
Demon Ortiz. Yep.
Yep, but trained under Mike King for some time, and then I ended up going away for some personal things and kind of left wrestling for a bit. When I came back, the school wasn't open, or wasn't available, so I got in touch with Bo Douglas, and that's where I ended up with the Bell Time Club, and so I've been there since 2019.
Nice. So, I mean, you went two good places. You know, Mike, very underrated man as a trainer. You kidding me? That guy's awesome. All right, and he has Travis has one more question. How many matches do you think you've had to date of the broadcast?
This is one of those hard questions because you have to understand in what context. Are you talking like, you know, is it a battle royal, a Royal Rumble?
Any match on a show, I would imagine.
Right, but then you have to also understand that, you know, depending on how much time you were in that match, was it really a match? Was it really?
Well, no, it would be. I think I consider if you go and you wrestle on a show, right? I don't care if it's 2 minutes, 4 minutes, or 18 minutes. You wrestled on the show.
And I respect that and I appreciate that. I know that I did a count for last year on how many matches, and oh goodness, I can't remember how many that was. And I should be better at counting them.
Yeah.
I'm sure at some point I'll go back and look at all of the little ins and outs that I've had, but I want to say I'm getting close to around... Getting around the 150, 200 range, you know.
It's excellent, man. And you got to start somewhere, too.
Of
you know
course.
what I mean? And when you first start up, you're not going to get booked everywhere. You might be lucky to get booked by one guy. You know what I mean? And then as time goes on, that's how it picks up. You get booked by another guy.
Right.
And the harder you work, you're going to go boom, 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 and they're all going to hit you up. You watch. I'm serious. Lenny's back.
Uh-oh.
And I'm combining this with Dan Ruckus's question.
Okay.
Because they both asked it, what is your dream match? Now, if you wanted, you could even give one as a fan, too. You know what I mean?
Well, I always kind of wanted to work with Bryan Danielson.
Yeah.
That was a big one for me. Zack Sabre Jr., another one who I felt technically would be a good challenge, and I would enjoy that.
Right.
Very much so. You know, and it really depends on opportunities, but if you're looking for dream matches, those are definitely the two that stand out as being the ones that not because a lot of folks when they do dream matches, and this is a pet peeve of mine, they want to go for those big stars, the guys that they idolize for many years, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But I don't want to go against someone who I looked up to just because they were the top guy or they were the most popular. I want to, you know, go against them because they are at the top of their level competitively.
Right.
And I want a challenge.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to have a dream match, it is going to be someone that I idolize. And it is going to be someone that I look up to. But I want to be sure that, you know, in terms of our competitiveness, we're evenly matched.
Right.
Because I don't want to necessarily have something where, for instance, I get handed, you know, an L, if you will.
Yeah.
You know, and I also don't want it so that way, you know, I'm destroying my idol. There's no need for that.
Right.
And I don't want to have that type of match, and I don't think for anyone in the audience that would be a very entertaining type of match. I want something where truly the odds are even. And I feel that with those two, at least where I'm at right now and where they are,
Yeah.
we could certainly see something like that.
Nice. All right. Dan Ruckus now has got a couple questions, I'm pretty sure, but it's only one on this page. What is your favorite tool in the shop?
It's my favorite tool in the shop. That is a good question. The big one that I enjoy the most, because you've got all kinds of tools, or at least I do. I don't know what you have.
No, I do, but all the tools I have are small. I'm a custodian.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, my favorite tool is the vice grip. And the big reason for the vice...
one of those.
Well, the vice grips are very handy. I mean, you have different styles of vice grips. But one of the big reasons why I like it the most is it's the most versatile.
Right.
At least in terms of what you can use it for, sort of how you can manipulate the sort of limitations of a tool.
Right.
Because you have so many tools where they're just one purpose.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with having something that is just that one. A pipe wrench is strictly a hammer. But when it comes to a vice grip, it is a hammer, it is a wrench, it is a chip bag closed, paper clip for a chip bag. It is there's plenty of uses for it that really no other tool has the ability to hold. And so that's truly why, I mean, right now I have a pair of vice grips that are holding laundry up for me. I mean, it's certainly one of those tools that that can be used for pretty much anything.
Yeah, as you explained, very versatile tool. All right. He also wants to know, what has been your favorite match you have been in so far? And I think that is his last question.
And it's a good question. It's a really good question.
Yeah, it is a good question. You've had some good questions.
Yeah, and I've had some good matches.
Yes.
When I really think about where... And this comes under, dream matches.
Yeah.
And I have been fortunate enough to work with people that I look up to, even even in such a short amount of time.
Right.
And had those opportunities. A couple that stand out to me is myself and Stephen Lust at UFO Wrestling.
Nice.
That was a really fun one. I think we talked about that last time.
Yes, we did. And Stephen is really taken off too.
Yeah, and he's doing really well for himself
he is.
now. He was definitely someone I looked up to a lot starting out, and to be able to compete against him was very fun. Eric Johnson up in, I believe that was Dover Foxcroft? Somewhere up in North Maine.
I was going to say Maine. He's a Maine dude.
Well, he is a Maine dude, and we were in Maine, I will admit. That was quite a drive.
Was it?
But
he's a good wrestler, though.
He is, and
very good.
And that is definitely one that where my limits were tested,
right.
and in a competitive state too. But of course, there is always myself and Aaron Kadamia.
Oh, nice.
And that is a classic one. I think that
Good
one's
dude,
actually
too.
in Dover Foxcroft.
Yeah.
But that is another one where, at least in terms of in a competition, in terms of skills, agility, his speed compared to my strength, that was definitely one where we both were pretty much equal, and I enjoyed that one. So.
Excellent, man. That's awesome. Michael Pitaro, you know who he is? Michael Pitaro's a good guy. He's the politician's brother. And he always asks one question the same, but to everybody.
Okay.
How much you bench? And a lot of people don't even say anything.
Don't even say anything. Well, I will say this, because that is the stereotypical question that any person who does not pick up a weight will ask in order to sort of try to expose or more or less make someone who looks in shape feel less confident about themselves. And I would like to say to you that if you can pick up a ladder, put it up against a house, pick up another ladder, put it on the roof, pick up another ladder, put it up against a chimney, and not be out of breath before the first ladder touches the gutter, I'll have respect for you.
Nice. All right. Well, he has another question.
Okay.
What's your gym routine?
What's my gym routine?
Yeah.
Yeah. Another one of those questions, huh?
Yeah.
Pick up a ladder, put it up against a house. I think we're good on that.
Thank you. Oh, God. But, Michael, thanks for asking the questions, man, because he's a really good guy. He's funny. He's going to like this. All right. Edgar Arthur Stevens. You know him.
I've heard, yeah, he's APW, I believe.
Yes. the Iden Works isn't too far from my old stomping grounds of Laconia.
Yes.
At one point, trying to find nearby wrestling schools and leagues to that area of New Hampshire meant moving out of the state, at the very least. Who did you end up contacting to train? I mean, you can mention it a little bit more if you'd like, and how did you break into the business?
Well, and and we did cover this a little bit, and he's not wrong, especially in the ironworks. There was, we would travel outwards. I think the first one that I ever saw was in Manchester.
Really?
Because and the ironworks in Manchester is only about half hour, 45 minutes. It's even shorter than that, depending on which way you go. So there's plenty of ways to get to where the wrestling was, but you had to want to go there. It wasn't something that was on your doorstep.
Right.
And I even find that where I am now, it's like there, and it's one of those things where you hear a lot of times with some of the vets where they go, well, if you want wrestling to be there, you have to promote it. You have to go out, put out flyers, and people will come. And there's nothing wrong with saying that. It certainly is the case, but at least in terms of, growing up there and sort of being in that environment, the people that are there.
Right.
And I know that a lot of folks there aren't necessarily huge wrestling fans.
Right.
Or at least you wouldn't see them be wrestling fans, but they would have a lot of wrestling memorabilia at flea markets and truck shows and all that. So to answer his question though, it just kind of happened. Like I said, it's one of those things where out of nowhere, I just kind of got roped into it and I saw a purpose and here I am.
It's pretty awesome though. You got dragged to a show and now you're a pro wrestler.
Well, I will admit I might have been the designated driver. So I didn't really have a choice.
All right. That's cool. Michael Pataro's back.
Okay.
Who is your favorite wrestler to compete with? And who is your favorite wrestler to road trip with?
Favorite wrestler to compete with and to road trip with. That is a good question.
I think better than his first round of questions.
Yeah, definitely a lot more respectful. Take a ladder. No. When it comes to wrestlers who you sort of work with and compete against, there's definitely a lot of good there in terms of the talent that we've seen come out of the New England area, especially a lot of the up and coming talent.
Right.
The biggest one, and I hate to say it because I can't say I've ever road tripped with him, but he seems to pop up in a lot of places that I've gone to.
Right.
And he is currently out of the area, and he's doing amazing things right now. I wish him all the best. But Seabass Finn is truly one of the most eccentric, entertaining, but competitively strong individuals that I've ever worked with. And I would be remiss to not bring up his name if we were asking about favorites.
Nice.
In terms of road trip, Big Lex Lozano, he's a character.
Yeah.
And and I remember being at McDonald's and he was singing a song about his chicken nuggets while we were all waiting for our food. And we were waiting about, there's a couple that was waiting about 10, 15 minutes, and he's just dancing and singing about his chicken nuggets that he got in 2 minutes.
Wow.
And he's a character.
It's all in the ordering, the timing.
Well, and it's also what you order too.
Yeah, that is
sometimes it takes longer. So.
Yeah.
But no, he's a character to road trip with, especially the longer you go, the more crazy it kind of gets. And so, that was a fun trip that we did.
I go on a one road trip a year with Damon and Dave Forney. We drive down to North Carolina. It takes us 15, 16 hours to get there.
Of course.
And we have the best time on the way there. But on the way home, we're all exhausted from having so much fun at the convention. And we still got that 15, 16-hour drive.
And that's how it always is you're always constantly, the way down is always fun. The way back, you're usually quiet.
Yeah, Dave Forney was tired, man. He was like, and he was cranky.
Yeah.
He'd apologized and everything, like, sorry, I'm cranky, guys. We're like, don't worry about it. But yeah, so all right, that's great. And now we got Brandon Langley.
Okay.
Who saved your life in Maine when you was a greenie? I'm gonna take it was Brandino Davis. Right? Brandito?
Oh boy. Yeah, I would say it's not the highest point of my career, but let's just say that I was a very inexperienced individual, experimenting with things that I had no right to be involved with.
Right.
And he's laughing right now, and the crowd's laughing right now, and anyone who was there is laughing right now. You're laughing right now.
Because I think I know.
It was an experience I will never forget, and it is all thanks to the great Brandino Davis.
Yes. Great man.
Absolutely.
Thank you, buddy, for the question. Ed Hunt. And I don't agree with this, Ed Hunt. I don't agree with this. Why is Dan Terry the greatest wrestler to come out of the Bell-Time Club? I don't agree.
Well,
Dan Terry's a very good wrestler, but I don't think he's the best.
What's his name again?
Oh, Dan Terry.
No, not Dan. I know who Dan Terry is. You're talking to a Bell-Time Club, and you don't think I understand who came out of Bell-Time Club? Really?
Oh, that's good.
Really?
I'm
okay.
sorry.
So
Ed
who's
Hunt. He's
Ed
the
Hunt.
manager at APW.
Ed Hunt, manager
Yes.
at APW. Okay.
Yes.
Well, to Ed, as a love letter, I would just recommend you ask someone by the names of Alec Price, of Channing Thomas. You could ask Bo Douglas. Why don't you ask Toto Loco? You know, even Mike McCarthy might have a few choice words about that question.
Very good answer. Very good answer. But Dan Terry, I like Dan Terry. It's not that, you know what I mean? But I don't agree with Ed's.
Dan Terry's a great guy, but if you want to look at the current achievements, I mean,
Right.
you know, Channing Thomas, the Limitless.
Doing fantastic.
I mean, look
Alec
at
Price.
that.
They were
Champion.
all the ones
Alec
you said
Price,
were all doing
IWTV.
it.
You know,
Yeah.
it's just one of those things where I think Dan Terry had his moment, and he is one of the greats, one of the OGs.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of respect for him.
Right.
But I feel that if anything, he is on par with a lot of the talent that has come out of the Bell-Time Club, and certainly not the greatest. You could even ask Kofi Kingston if you'd like.
Well, right now, we got a question from a Bell-Time guy.
Excellent.
Big Man Matooch. And he'd have something to say about that, too. Ask him about his first time Jason Rumble and Mickey Mouse Jesus incident. Tell me you know what he's talking about. Because I don't even, you know what I mean, reading it.
I would say so, and I think I answered that question earlier, so we'll move on.
Oh, thank you. All right. Now I really know. Joey Kilmartin. Has he explored training outside of the Bell-Time Club and any promotions you would like to work for? Now, the Bell-Time Club, kid.
No, yeah. Well, Bell-Time Club is certainly my home, and it's where I sort of made my stake and claim, but I do also travel outside to experience other training.
You should.
And as Mike Hollow says, it's different flavors of ice cream, and he's another individual who I've trained under. And
Definitely.
You know, Coach Hollow,
Smart move.
Coach Hollow, Scott Reed up at Elite Pro Wrestling Academy. There's, you know, going down to Fall River, there's the Lockup Pro Wrestling Academy.
Yep.
You've also got Test of Strength with Slick Wagner Brown.
Love Slick.
Of course, yeah, and Bobby Ocean there too. And then, of course, I also do go over to Beyond and sort of the bio training academy there, and you know, under Brian Malonis and Tom, and really all these trainers are really good at what they do because it is truly their experience being brought onto the younger generation.
Right.
And I feel that in all the different schools that I've gone to, I've picked up something and I've learned something, and I feel that it is important as an individual who wants to master this craft to know and understand that there are differences, and experience them is probably the greatest thing you could do for yourself. So those are all good places to go to. In terms of promotions that I would want to go to, And I've certainly seen quite a few different shows at this point. Pro Wrestling Grind is one that I would love to go to out there, and really that as well as PvP, Pioneer Valley.
Yep.
That's another place that I'd like to go to. And even NEW down in Connecticut.
Yep.
Some of the New Jersey promotions as well. And I've thought about going out to Ohio, Ohio Valley Wrestling,
Nice.
And seeing that. But it's definitely one of those things where, at least right now in the craft that I'm honing, those are good goals to have.
Right.
But at the same time, I have a trajectory that I wish to continue on with Let's Wrestle, and I would like to go to Limitless.
Yep.
And certainly I feel that at some point when I discover a little bit more about my craft, that I will
It's a goal.
I'll be worthy.
Yeah, it's good to have goals, man. You're talking to a guy that never had goals until I started doing this show. I told you already, right? 500. That's a goal. I'd not stop it until I get to 500.
It's a good goal to have.
Yes. All right, Maverick Wild. How is his brother Harry, and how does it piss him off? He's only on the Quidditch JV team at Hogwarts.
Yeah, what a great question. Anything else?
All right. Yeah. Sorry, Mav.
Well, I'll tell you a funny story about that. So
right.
I was in Malden, and it was one of my first matches that I ever had under the Bell Time Club. And what they had was Brian Malonis had just come back. And he was, and it was one of those gauntlet matches. And I remember them coming up to us and saying, hey, listen, we understand that Brian is going to destroy you, but what we want you to do is soften him up and get him, we want him to be a little bit easier to tackle with our bigger guys. So if you guys go out there and just give it your all. And I remember I went out there and I tried to lift him, and I wouldn't, it didn't work, and he ended up clobbering me. And but I remember before we even locked up, before we even attempted a match, he pointed at me, and he got the whole crowd to chant Harry Potter at me, and lo and behold, that is where I got my name from. So Samuel Radcliffe is unfortunately tied to that franchise for some time.
That's wild. We're gonna probably into like some pop culture or a little bit different than wrestling, talking a bit.
Don't go crazy.
But well, John Casey wants to know.
Okay.
Why do you hate Dick Lane so much? And why do you hate the top rope?
The top rope?
Top ropes. Yeah.
I don't hate the top ropes. They're a vital part of the ring. That's part of the anatomy of the ring.
And safety.
And safety too, but it's also one of those pieces of the ring that oftentimes gets abused quite a lot. Because a lot of wrestlers like to utilize the top rope for different move sets and whatnot, which is good, but the problem is that they always request these ropes to be very tight, so that way they can do whatever they wish. And truly, I don't see a point to it, in my opinion. Now, for some folks, they may find that as being more of the art style, so I can't necessarily have any qualms for that. But it is one of those items that oftentimes gets abused when it comes to setting up the ring. And what you find is that over time, that part of the ring, very specific, by the way, because if you ever look at any ring failures of major or any to date, it's usually the top rope.
Right.
And it usually has to do with it being over tightened and
snaps.
And really, when you get to that point, safety kind of isn't in effect. And I feel that that's, I really do feel that that's quite a detriment to this culture, to this art, is the fact that we rely on that so heavily. So,
it's wild, is I've actually seen a bunch of different times in the past 2 or 3 years, different companies that did that. Like they get get new ring stuff, so they rip the old stuff. And I don't know, it's just kind of weird to see them turn the clock back not turn the clock back, but open up even more than you're already open. Nobody needs to see how the ring is set up. No one needs to see that.
Yeah.
In my opinion, the ring is the ring, and it just should be there.
Of course, yeah, that's...
Yeah. But But why do you hate Dick Lane so much?
Hate's the wrong word. I mean, I don't hate him. I really don't. I don't hate anyone per se. I just don't get it. I don't understand the charm. I don't understand why so many people. I get it. It's a funny. Okay, yeah, let's laugh at a man named after a genitalia, and everyone kind of parades that around as being funny, but it's not. And at least in my opinion, it is one of those things that bothers me about this business is when people do not take it seriously, and when people sort of provide these fake identities to this combat. And I'm sorry, but magic is not part of this combat. It is not in any shape or form a real and legitimate way to fight someone. And it really upsets me that that is all he is. He isn't Dick Lane, the wrestler. He isn't Dick Lane, the manager. He isn't Dick Lane anything. He is just this superpower creature, and everyone just kind of falls into this trap of believing it's real or imagining. That's kind of like with really Santa Claus or the Easter Bunny, where it's a fairy tale. It's a fairy tale, and the fact that it has been brought in and so legitimized that it really detrimines what we're trying to do here. I mean, really, in terms of a combat sport, that's what we're doing here. We're here to be the better individual.
Right.
And when you have to pretend that this individual is better than you because he gets people that like him more, or because he is more flashy than you, but in reality, he is no different than any one of us. And I feel that in terms of who he is, I don't hate him. I don't hate him as a person. I hate who he is in the ring. I hate who he tries to be and who he pretends to be. And I feel like if he would just give that up and actually put some effort into his craft and into his work, maybe he would be able to hold a championship longer than a year. Maybe he would just be more competitively adequate in the ring. And I feel that the fact that he has such a following is such a stain on New England. It's such a stain on who we are trying to be. We are trying to be an active combat sport that people go to watch. No different than the UFC, no different than catch wrestling, no different than even the Greco-Roman days or even the days when we were in the Coliseum. We are the entertainment, and we don't need these fancy gimmicks or these fancy potions or these fancy looks or the cape or any of that. We don't need that.
Right.
Because we can tell everyone in that building that we mean business just by our looks, just by our actions, just by our moves. If I hit someone with an elbow and they start to bleed, that's all you need. If you hit someone with a neck breaker and they're having trouble moving because their neck is stiff, that's all you need. But you can't tell me that when someone gives a stupid Hadouken move and then scratches the top of your head and then flatliners you, you cannot tell me that as an individual who takes this craft to heart, someone who has enveloped it in the way that many of us have, you cannot tell me that that is an effective combative stance. And so, as a matter of fact, I'm sorry, Leo, because you're a great person, and I have nothing against John because, well, he runs NCW, but I don't think that question really deserves to be on this list. And I don't think any more questions on that really should be on this list because, it's a waste of time. You could ask anyone. You could ask anyone that I've brought up in the past or even in the future, and they'll say it's a waste of time. So please, no more questions on that.
All right. So I've been trying to go off the script of wrestling a little bit, just talking about like music and TV and things like that. What's a must music album?
I mean, in what context? You know,
Rock, classic rock.
Whatever gets you in the mood. I don't.
Right. What gets you in the mood?
Because people always ask, they say, well, what something that's supposed to get the fans. I don't care about the fans.
Right.
I don't care about what they want to listen to. They want to listen to it. They can listen to it in their car.
Right.
They can listen to it on the way to the show. They could listen to it while they're in the audience. I don't care anymore. I want to come out to something that's going to get me invested in this. And there's nothing that's going to get me more amped up than classic rock or even heavy metal at times.
Yep.
Even Russian rap is one of those good ones. But to be honest, once again, it's just it's nothing on you. I understand these are fans that bring these up, but it's just one of those things where that doesn't matter, and their opinion on what I come out to or what I work out to. If they're looking for inspiration, I'm happy to give them the playlist, but they're not going to dictate or they're not going to give me judgment on what I choose to listen to because it's what I choose to listen to, not them.
All right. Let's try something different. I think I know the answer to this question already.
Okay.
What's your favorite movie franchise?
Is it Harry Potter? Did you guess it was Harry
Yeah.
Potter? That's a very funny joke.
Yeah, but no, I'm not trying to be funny. I'm trying to be right. I wouldn't have guessed it until you mentioned it.
Yeah. I don't know. Saving Private Ryan, Reservoir, any World War II. Those are good. All Quiet on the Western Front, Schindler's List. Those are good ones to watch on a calm day. But yeah, once again, it's not really. I mean, I get it. It's to understand personality, but you know that's not why we're here.
All right. Well, let's go back to wrestling.
Please.
We're going to talk a little bit about people in AEW.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on CM Punk? And all that's happened.
I'm mad at the fact that someone like that has such a following. And we'll go back to following because if you really want, this is a wind up now because now you're bringing up more things that are just reminding me of Dick Lane. And
Well, I'm not
sorry,
trying
Leo.
to.
I'm sorry, Leo, but I asked not to. The big thing with CM Punk is it reminds me of many individuals in this business where they want to matter more than they do, and they want to continue. They had a following and they want to continue that following and they want people to love them for who they were, and they forget about who they are. And they need to understand that who they were was great, and who they were is what inspired a lot of people to join in their cause, or even in the business for that matter. But they have to also understand that they are not that person anymore. And that if they truly want people to associate with them in the modern day, they need to adapt. They need to be more of who they are now. And if they keep up this facade that they are who they were, even as long, 3 years ago, at some point they're going to be outmatched. And if they're going to run out and cry about it, if they're going to pout about it, if they're going to be all upset and pissy about it and run back to wherever they came from, it really doesn't matter. I don't see that as being something that I should respect.
Absolutely. All right. Thoughts on Jungle Jack Perry?
I think that the whole situation, I think that when that type of personal attachment sort of comes to head, I think it's immature, but I also understand that people have feelings. We're all human, I suppose. Some of us are. And some of us like to pretend that we like magic and we like to go into the ring. And I'm really tired of just the whole idea behind just bringing in this fake and phony act, and people enjoy it. And if people enjoy it, that's fine. Do it at a carnival, do it at a parade, do it at a fair. Do not bring it into the ring.
Wow.
I'm sorry, that wasn't the answer to your question. I don't have a comment on that.
All right.
I don't have a comment on either of those.
Yeah, I mean, ever since John brought up freaking Dick Lane, you become kind of like a jerk. No disrespect, but I'm just, calling it how it is. You're a good guy too, but I'm just asking you some questions. You said yes when I asked you.
Look, I apologize. It's one of those things where, you know how you see something or you're involved in something and you go away for some time and you give time to think and you start to sort of reflect upon your decisions and all that. And I've had a lot of time to think about, the last time I even saw Dick Lane. And, then people, I've had people ask me all the time. People walk up to me. I was doing grocery shopping and someone walked up to me as a kid and he was very upset about what I had done. And I told him, I said, I don't have any regrets for what I did. I stood up for what I believe in.
Now, that kid's talking about you turning on your tag team partner who was Dick Lane.
He wasn't a tag team partner. I wasn't even really invested in the match. The fact he couldn't hold his own. This is another thing, is that he, for the majority of that match, was on the ground. He was in a pinning predicament for the majority of that match. He could not hold his own. And he lost my respect for that. And he really proved to me that his combat style is not true combat, because he was nobody at all. And what really tipped me over the edge is the fact that he had the nerve, after all of that, and truly being this it's a figure of an imagination at this point. The fact that he had any nerve to get in the ring at all after that, regardless of the fact that he took it from me. I mean, that's another thing that pisses me off, is the fact that we could have won that match just with me alone. We didn't need him at all. And if we didn't have him, the match would have been a lot shorter. We would have had a better record in terms of our wins and losses. And really, at the end of the day, what he did in terms of the spotlight is he wanted it all for him. But he didn't think about the team at all. And I don't at all respect that. And that's why he needed to be put in his place. And I'll ask you again, Leo, because I'm trying not to be upset. But you have to understand, it's ridiculous. And the amount of questions you've had on him, I don't want to talk about him anymore.
No, you had one question on him.
One question. Then why are we still talking about him?
All right. So now we're going to play the name game. That way we'll get away from insane Dick Lane. Okay? How about Mike Montero?
Okay. He's one of those individuals who has come up and he's been around for a while, but at the same time, he's always constantly changing his strategies. He's changing his game, and if he's a fan favorite, I see that out of him.
Okay. Diego Alvarez.
Diego Alvarez is someone who's kind of taken over the New England area, and he's truly, he said Papi Guapo.
Yep.
He's truly Papi Guapo. That's an individual who you can associate with, who you can really understand, and I tell you, I mean, he upsets me, but it's in a good way.
All right. How about his sometimes tag team partner, Johnny Pierce?
Johnny Pierce is one of those individuals where you don't want to mess with him. You don't want to get on his bad side. He's a cold, hard truth. Yeah. And the cold, hard truth is that Dick Lane shouldn't be anywhere near a wrestling ring. I don't know how many more times I have to say this, Leo. I'm so upset about it.
You brought him up!
I'm so upset about this.
You brought him up. Listen.
I didn't bring him up.
You're obsessed with Dick Lane.
I'm not.
There's no doubt you are. You can't stop thinking about him. Ever since John said something, that was like with 25 minutes to go in the show. We got a little over 8 minutes. And you're just, like, for 17 minutes, you've been, like, pissed off about Dick Lane. And you keep saying stop talking about him, and you keep bringing him up.
Because in terms of who he is. He is such an anti to who we are. We. I'm not talking about me. You keep thinking this is about me. This is about everyone else.
Right.
This is about every other individual who enters that ring. He is the complete anti to that. And he takes away from everybody else. You talk about Mike Montero, he takes away from Mike Montero. You talk about Papi Guapo, he took away from him. Right. You know, you want to talk about even these bigger stars who had to deal with him in their younger years, and look at him, they don't even talk about him now. So I don't understand why I have to be the individual who constantly has to be reminded of him. I don't want anything else to do with him, and I'm sorry, he's just on my mind. It's just how it is, but at the same time, you have to understand that the reason he's on my mind is because he won't get out of my mind until he's gone, until he's out of the New England scene. Because I'm sorry, but magic is fake.
When I go to a wrestling show, I dispel belief. So if there's a guy that says he's a GOAT, for about 8 to 12 minutes, man, I'm going to think that guy's a GOAT. I'm going to cheer that GOAT on. I might even give him a bah. You know what I mean? That's just me as a fan. I'm honestly and truthfully, like you, I'm not a fan of that stuff. The magic and all that. Never have been. That's what I mean. I've always been like against it. But I don't know, Dick Lynn's a nice guy, and it's fun. It's to dispel belief.
Do you have any other questions?
All right, yeah, I got more wrestlers to ask you. How about a referee? Dan Tanaka.
Dan Tanaka.
Yeah.
Dan Tanaka is one of those guys where you enter the ring and he's one of those individuals where he's a good guy, and he is someone who cares about his craft and cares about in keeping everyone in on the rules and the sanctions, and it's always good to see him.
All right. How about Osiris?
Osiris is energetic. He's one of those individuals that you when you enter the ring, you know that either two things have happened. Either one, you've done enough bad.
Yeah.
To where you've come face to face with him, or you've done enough good where you've been sent to put him away. And either way, he's one of those individuals in the ring who will just run right through you. If you're not up on your game,
right,
he'll put you in your place.
Absolutely. But if you say Osiris, you gotta say Doc Ozone.
Doc Ozone.
Obviously, or vice versa.
Yeah, I mean, and Doc Ozone's one of those guys where he will come up to you and act like he's never seen you before, and not never seen you before, but hadn't seen you in years.
Right.
I mean, and you could have seen him last week, and he'll be so happy to see you.
Yep.
And I
always a hug from the doctor. Mm-hmm. You know, absolutely. Always. All right. How about Dallas McCarthy, a guy that's really hasn't been brought up much on the show, so I'd like to bring, Fair. Dallas McCarthy.
Dallas is okay. I don't really involve myself with Dallas, and from what I understand, he's kind of off doing his own thing now, and I wish him the best. But yeah, he's cool.
All right. How about Benny Jukes?
Benny. I remember when I got to compete against Benny and really understand who Benny was, and he's a good fighter. He is absolutely. He's one of those people you respect.
Right.
Because he takes his craft
seriously.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move right along. Bo Douglas.
Bo Douglas, obviously my trainer.
Trying to keep it up.
An individual I respect. And an individual, Bo knows for a reason. And I owe my career to him. I owe the fact that I could not enter a ring confidently and know that what I'm doing is effective and know what I'm doing is the right thing. Without Bo Douglas, there wouldn't be a Sam Radcliffe. So I owe my career to him.
Excellent. UFOs, Pat Dillon.
Pat is a good guy. He's an interesting guy, but the reality is that he's one of those individuals that you see turn up at trainings or at shows, and you can see that he cares,
right,
in some form.
Okay.
Which I respect.
All right. How about Dr. Heresy?
Doc's really good. I haven't seen Doc in a long time, to be honest with you.
Okay.
The last time I saw him, or at least was in a ring with him, didn't really end very well for me. No, he's a good individual.
Yes.
And another one of those people that, the folks, they love him, and they all kind of follow him, and yeah.
All right. Davey Cash.
I mean, he's tough.
Yeah.
He's a tough guy. I remember the last time I had a match against him. Can we move on?
All right. How about the masshole, Mike McCarthy, who was sitting there just a couple weeks ago?
Masshole he's one of those guys that are always cheering you on. Although his idea of cheering is a knuckle sandwich, but it's a good one. And he's always one of those people that you want to impress, you want to look up
right.
to. Just like many of them, Bo Douglas,
Yep.
Benny Jooks, and even Dan Terry in some form. You want these guys to recognize you as the next of kin, right. the next bookmark in the story of the Belltime Club, and I have so much respect for him.
All right, seeing you brought that up, we're going to end it with the kid that's going to be signed next, Alec Price.
And it's funny because Alec is, I've always kind of seen Alec as an older brother to me. I've seen him and Channing, because I remember when they were still at the dojo and I would train under them, and
right.
they would always kind of beat me up a little bit, but it wasn't, and I remember one time he came into a match, and while he's beating me up, he's telling me about how much he wants to see me grow.
Nice.
And
they're good dudes, both of them.
I'll never forget that. I'll never forget the effort both of them made to
right.
push me to be better.
That's awesome. Do you have any shows you want to plug? You're coming up. Where can we see you?
Coming up, November is going to be very busy, with Let's Wrestle and NCW, and you can, you can
look them up on Facebook and stuff, guys. Listen.
Yeah.
Sorry I yelled at you. Thanks for coming on, my friend.
Yeah. Thank you.
We're out. Peace. Hi, guys. I hope you're enjoying the show. Listen, I could use a little help to grow my YouTube channel. So if you could please like, share, and subscribe. That's most importantly, subscribe. Send me a direct message, and I'll give you a shout out here on the show. My YouTube channel is real simple. It's just my name, Leo Connors. Thanks in advance. Peace.